My name is Aaron Phillips. I am 18 years old, and I learned that becoming an adult sometimes means discovering that the people who raised you have been lying to you your entire life. It means learning that family loyalty can be a weapon used against you. It means understanding that sometimes the person who loved you most is someone who died before you were old enough to really know them, but who protected you anyway from beyond the grave. My story begins 3 days before my 18th birthday, when I received an email from a lawyer I had never heard of. The subject line read, "Regarding the estate of Margaret Eleanor Phillips, urgent and confidential." I almost deleted it, thinking it was spam. Phishing emails pretending to be from lawyers were common enough, but something made me open it. Maybe curiosity, maybe fate, maybe my great-grandmother reaching out from wherever she was to save me one last time. The email was formal and professional. It introduced the sender as Robert Chun, senior partner at Chun & Associates, estate planning attorneys. He explained that he had been the personal attorney for my great-grandmother, Margaret Eleanor Phillips, who had passed away 6 months earlier. He said he needed to speak with me urgently and confidentially regarding my great-grandmother's will and estate, and that it was critical I contact him before my 18th birthday. He included his office phone number, his cell phone number, and a request that I not discuss this email with anyone, particularly my parents, until after we had spoken. That last part made my stomach drop. Why would a lawyer specifically tell me not to talk to my parents? What could possibly be in my great-grandmother's will that required secrecy? I sat in my bedroom staring at that email for a long time. My great-grandmother had died in April, 6 months ago. I remembered the funeral. I remembered my mother crying, my father looking somber, my younger siblings confused about why everyone was so sad about someone they barely remembered. Great-grandma Margaret had been 93 when she died. I had visited her a few times over the years, mostly when I was younger. She lived in a nursing home the last few years of her life, and visits had become less frequent as I got older and busier with school. I remembered her as kind, gentle, always smiling when she saw me. She would hold my hand with her papery soft skin and tell me I was going to do great things. She would ask about school and listen like my answers were the most important things she had ever heard. But I had not known her well. Not really. She was just my great-grandmother, a nice old lady I saw a few times a year. I called the number. I used my cell phone and went outside to the backyard where no one would overhear. It was a Tuesday afternoon in November, 3 days before my birthday. The weather in Northern California was mild, the sky clear. I paced back and forth on our back patio while the phone rang. Robert Chun. A voice answered on the second ring. "Hi," I said. "This is Aaron Phillips. I just got your email about my great-grandmother's estate." "Aaron," he said, and I could hear relief in his voice. "Thank you for calling. I have been trying to figure out how to reach you without going through your parents. Did you get my email?" "Yes," I said. "Just now. What is this about? Why can you not talk to my parents?" "Because your parents are not the beneficiaries of your great-grandmother's will," Robert said. "You are. You and your siblings. And based on some conversations I had with your great-grandmother before she died, and some things I have observed since, I have reason to believe your parents may not be entirely honest with you about the contents of her will." My mouth went dry. "What do you mean?" "Aaron, can we meet in person?" Robert asked. "This is complicated and sensitive, and I would prefer to explain everything face to face. Are you able to come to my office? And again, I must stress, do not tell your parents about this meeting. Not yet." "Okay," I said. "When?" "How about tomorrow?" Robert suggested. "After school? My office is in downtown San Jose. I can email you the address." "Tomorrow works," I said. "But can you at least tell me what this is about? You are kind of freaking me out." Robert was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Your great-grandmother left a substantial estate. Property, investments, savings. It is all meant for you and your siblings. Your parents are not mentioned in the will, except to specifically exclude them from inheriting anything. Your great-grandmother made me promise to make sure her wishes were carried out exactly as written, and I am concerned that your parents may try to interfere with that." "How much?" I asked. "How much money are we talking about?" "Approximately $800,000, Robert said, "plus a house worth another $300,000. Over $1 million total." I actually sat down on the patio. My legs just gave out. $1 million? Your great-grandmother was very frugal, Robert said. She lived modestly, invested wisely, and saved for her entire life. She wanted to make sure her great-grandchildren would be taken care of, that you would have opportunities she never had. "And my parents do not know about this?" I asked. "Oh, they know," Robert said. "I informed them of the will 6 months ago, right after your great-grandmother died. They know that you and your siblings are the beneficiaries. What they may not know is how thoroughly your great-grandmother protected the estate from any interference. Or they may know and be planning to circumvent those protections. That is why I need to meet with you, to make sure you understand what you are inheriting and how to protect it." We set the meeting for the next afternoon. I hung up and just sat there on the patio, trying to process. $1 million. My great-grandmother had left me and my siblings $1 million, and specifically cut my parents out of the will. Why would she do that? What had she known or suspected about my parents that made her write them out completely? I went back inside. My mother was in the kitchen making dinner. My younger brother Ethan, who was 15, was at the kitchen table doing homework. My youngest sibling, my sister Lily, who was 12, was in the living room watching TV. I looked at my mother with new eyes, trying to see what great-grandma Margaret might have seen. My mother was 42, blonde, pretty in a sharp kind of way. She worked as an office manager at a dental practice. My father was 45, worked in IT for a tech company. We lived in a nice 4-bedroom house in a good neighborhood. We were solidly middle class, comfortable but not wealthy, or at least that is what I had always thought. But if we had always been comfortable, why did my parents always stress about money? Why did they always say we could not afford things? Why did they tell me I would need scholarships for college? Because they did not have money saved for tuition. "Aaron, can you set the table?" my mom asked without looking up from the stove. "Sure," I said automatically. I got out plates and silverware, moving on autopilot while my mind raced. That night at dinner, I watched my parents. Really watched them, looking for signs of something wrong. Something that would explain why my great-grandmother had cut them out of her will. My father dominated the conversation like he always did, talking about his day at work, complaining about his boss, about traffic, about whatever else was annoying him. My mother made appropriate noises of agreement and sympathy. Ethan and Lily were quiet, eating their food, used to Dad taking up all the air in the room. "So, Aaron," my dad said, turning his attention to me, "big birthday coming up. 18. Finally legal. How does it feel?" "Fine," I said. "Same as any other day, I guess." "Well, it is not just any other day," Dad said. 18 is important. You are an adult now. Legal adult. That comes with responsibilities." "I know," I said. "We actually need to talk to you about something," Mom said. She glanced at Dad. "About your great-grandmother." My heart started pounding. "What about her?" "Well, you know she passed away earlier this year," Mom said. "And she left some things behind. Some assets that need to be managed." "Okay," I said carefully. "We have been handling the estate stuff," Dad said. "Lawyers, paperwork, all that boring adult stuff. But now that you are turning 18, there are some documents we need you to sign. Just formalities, really. Legal stuff. What kind of documents? I asked. Just estate documents, Dad said vaguely, basically confirming that we are managing the estate appropriately. Your great-grandmother left some money in trust for you and your siblings, for college and whatnot. But someone needs to manage it until you kids are old enough. That is us. We are the trustees. The documents just formalize that. How much money? I asked. My parents exchanged a look. That is not really important right now, Mom said. The important thing is making sure it is managed properly and used for the right things. Education. Your future. But I would like to know how much. I pressed. If it is for me and Ethan and Lily, I should know what we are talking about, right? It is about $50,000, Dad said, which sounds like a lot, but split 3 ways and used for college, it goes fast. That is why it needs to be managed carefully. $50,000. He was lying. He was sitting right there at the dinner table and lying straight to my face. The real amount was over $1 million, and he was telling me it was $50,000. Okay, I said, keeping my voice neutral. So, you need me to sign something? On your birthday, Mom said. We have a meeting scheduled with the lawyer. Just a quick thing. Sign the papers, make it all official, and then we can go out for dinner to celebrate. Your choice of restaurant. Sounds good, I said. I smiled. I nodded. I acted like everything was normal. And the whole time I was thinking about how my parents were planning to steal from me and Ethan and Lily were planning to make me sign away my inheritance before I even knew I had one. The next afternoon, I drove to Robert Chen's office in downtown San Jose. The drive from my high school took about 25 minutes. I had told my parents I was staying late for a club meeting. They had not questioned it. Why would they? I had never lied to them before. I had always been the good kid, the responsible one, the one they did not have to worry about. But now I was lying, and I was doing it because they had lied to me first. The office building was downtown, all glass and steel and modern architecture, the kind of building that screamed expensive and professional. I parked in the visitor lot and took the elevator up to the 10th floor, my stomach doing flips the whole way up. The law office of Chun and Associates took up half the floor. The waiting room was beautiful, polished hardwood floors, leather chairs that looked like they cost more than my car, abstract art on the walls, floor-to-ceiling windows with views of the city spreading out below. A receptionist sat behind a sleek modern desk, typing on a computer. She looked up when I entered and smiled. You must be Aaron Phillips. Mr. Chun is expecting you. Can I get you anything while you wait? Water? Coffee? We have espresso if you prefer. Water would be great, I said. My mouth was dry. My hands were sweating. She brought me a bottle of water in a glass, not plastic. Even the water was fancy here. I sat in one of the leather chairs and tried to calm my racing heart. I was about to learn the truth about my great-grandmother's will, about an inheritance I never knew existed, about lies my parents had apparently been telling. It felt surreal, like something from a movie, not real life. After about 5 minutes, a door opened and a man appeared. Robert Chun. He was in his 50s, Asian American, with salt and pepper hair neatly combed back. He wore an expensive-looking dark suit and glasses with thin metal frames. Everything about him screamed competence and professionalism. Aaron, he said, extending his hand. Thank you so much for coming. I am Robert Chin. Please, come into my office. I stood and shook his hand. His grip was firm and warm. He led me down a hallway lined with more abstract art and into a corner office that was even more impressive than the waiting room. The office was spacious, with windows on 2 walls providing panoramic views of downtown San Jose. One wall was lined floor to ceiling with law books, the spines all matching and perfectly aligned. His desk was massive, dark wood polished to a shine. Behind it was a credenza with photos in expensive frames. A family photo showing Robert with a woman and 2 kids. Another photo of what looked like a college graduation. A third of him shaking hands with someone who might have been important. There were 2 leather chairs facing his desk and a small conference table in the corner with 4 more chairs around it. Everything was perfectly arranged, nothing out of place. This was the office of someone who was very successful and wanted you to know it. "Please sit," Robert said, gesturing to one of the chairs facing his desk. "Can I get you anything else? Are you comfortable?" "I am fine, thank you," I said, sitting down. The chair was incredibly comfortable, the kind that probably cost $1,000. Robert sat behind his desk and looked at me for a moment, his expression kind but serious. "Aaron, I know this must all be very confusing and probably concerning. You get an email from a lawyer you have never heard of, telling you not to talk to your parents, asking you to come to a confidential meeting. That is a lot to process." "Yeah," I said, "it is definitely weird." "I apologize for the mysterious approach," Robert said, "but I had my reasons, which I will explain. First, though, let me tell you a bit about myself and my relationship with your great-grandmother, so you understand where I am coming from." He leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "I met Margaret Phillips about 8 years ago. She was referred to me by another client who knew she was looking for an estate planning attorney. Margaret was 85 at the time, but sharp as a tack. She came to my office alone, which was unusual for someone her age. Most elderly clients bring family members to help them understand the legal documents. But Margaret did not want family there," Robert continued. "She told me right away that what she wanted to discuss was confidential, that she did not want her family to know what she was planning. That was my first clue that this was not going to be a standard estate plan." He pulled out a file from his desk drawer, a thick file, well-worn, with tabs sticking out at various points. My great-grandmother's name was written on the tab. "We worked together for years," Robert said, "creating trusts, setting up accounts, planning every detail of her estate. And in all that time, she talked to me about her family, about you and your siblings, about your parents, about her concerns and her hopes." "What did she say about my parents?" I asked. Robert chose his words carefully. "She loved them. That was clear. But she did not trust them with money. She told me stories about your grandfather, her son, who had struggled with gambling, about the times she had bailed him out of debt, about how he died with nothing to leave his own children because he had spent everything. She told me about your father growing up without financial stability, watching his parents struggle, and then repeating some of those same patterns as an adult." "My dad does not gamble," I said, feeling defensive even though I was not sure why. "Not at casinos, perhaps," Robert said gently. "But your great-grandmother talked about other financial issues, about debt, about living beyond means, about expensive cars and bigger houses and keeping up appearances, about the way your father always seemed to be stretched thin financially despite having a good job. I thought about that, about how my parents always seemed stressed about money, about how they always said we could not afford things, even though we lived in a nice house and drove decent cars, about the arguments I had overheard late at night about credit card bills and car payments. She did not tell me any of this to be cruel or judgmental," Robert continued. "She told me because she wanted me to understand why she was structuring her estate the way she was. She wanted to make sure her great-grandchildren would benefit from her life's work, not see it disappear into debt or poor financial decisions." He opened the file and pulled out a document. "This is your great-grandmother's will. Would you like me to walk you through it?" "Yes," I said. "Please." Robert adjusted his glasses and began reading, not the legal language, but explaining it in plain terms. Margaret Phillips's estate included her house, which she had owned outright for decades. It included savings accounts and CDs totaling about $400,000. It included investments and stocks worth another $300,000. It included a life insurance policy with a $100,000 death benefit. Altogether, Robert said, the total value of the estate at the time of her death was approximately $1.1 million. I felt lightheaded. $1.1 million. My great-grandmother, who had lived in a modest apartment and worn the same coat for 20 years, had died with over $1 million. How? I asked. How did she have that much money? She saved, Robert said simply. Your great-grandmother worked as a seamstress for over 40 years. She never made a lot of money per hour, but she worked constantly, and she saved every single penny. She did not take vacations. She did not buy new furniture when the old stuff still worked. She did not eat at restaurants or buy fancy clothes or spend money on anything that was not absolutely necessary. He pulled out another document, a ledger handwritten, showing decades of deposits and withdrawals. She kept meticulous records. She knew where every dollar went, and she invested wisely, small amounts at first, but over time, with compound interest, it grew. By the time she was 80, she had built a substantial nest egg. And she left it all to me and my siblings? I asked. Not exactly, Robert said. He pulled out another set of documents. She left it in trust, which is an important distinction. The money is technically yours and Ethan's and Lily's, but it is held and managed by an independent trustee until you reach certain ages and milestones. He explained the trust structure. The money was divided into 3 equal shares, one for each of us. We could not access the principal until we were 25, but the trust would pay for college expenses directly. Tuition, room and board, books, everything. We could also petition the trustee for distributions for other important things, medical expenses, housing, transportation, anything that was truly necessary for our welfare and development. Your great-grandmother wanted to make sure the money would be used wisely, Robert explained. She did not want you to inherit a lump sum at 18 and blow it on cars or parties or things that would not matter in the long run. She wanted the money to give you opportunities, education, stability, the chance to build successful lives. What about my parents? I asked. Where do they come in? Robert's expression darkened slightly. They don't. Your parents are specifically mentioned in the will only to be excluded. The language is very clear. They are to have no access to the trust funds, no ability to borrow against the trust, no authority to make decisions about distributions. They are completely cut out. Why? I asked. Robert pulled out one more document, an envelope, similar to the one he had given me with the letter. Your great-grandmother wrote letters to each of you, to Ethan, and to Lily, to be given to you when you turned 18. She wanted you to hear from her directly why she made the choices she made. I looked at the envelope with my name on it, my great-grandmother's handwriting, shaky but still legible. Aaron Phillips in blue ink. You do not have to read it now if you do not want to, Robert said. You can take it with you, but I think it will help you understand. I opened it. Inside was a letter, 2 pages, handwritten on nice stationery. As I read it, tears started running down my face. I could not help it. This woman I barely remembered, who I had seen maybe a dozen times in my life, had been thinking about me, planning for me, worrying about me. She had worked herself to the bone for 40 years so that I could have opportunities, so that I could go to college without debt, so that I could follow my dreams. And she had known that my parents could not be trusted with that responsibility. She had known they would spend it or waste it or use it for themselves instead of for us. She had known, and she had protected us. He pulled out a file from his desk drawer, a thick file with tabs and documents sticking out. Your great-grandmother Margaret came to see me about 8 years ago. She wanted to update her will. She had written 1 decade earlier but wanted to make changes. Specifically, she wanted to ensure that her estate went directly to her great-grandchildren, not to her children or grandchildren. Why? I asked. Why skip 2 generations? She did not say explicitly at first, Robert said. But over the years, as we worked together on her estate planning, she told me stories about your grandfather, her son, who had gambling problems, about your grandmother who enabled him, about your father, Margaret's grandson, who she felt had inherited the same issues with money. Dad does not gamble, I said. Not in casinos, perhaps, Robert said. But your great-grandmother was concerned about the way your father spent money, about debt, about living beyond means, about making poor financial decisions. She loved your family. She talked about you kids all the time, but she did not trust your parents to manage money responsibly, and she definitely did not trust them with a large inheritance. He opened the file and pulled out a document. This is your great-grandmother's will. I am going to walk you through it, but the basics are this. Her entire estate, including her house, her investments, her savings, and her life insurance, are left in trust for you, Ethan, and Lily. The trust is ironclad. Your parents cannot touch it. They cannot borrow against it. They cannot access it at all. The trust is managed by an independent trustee until each of you turns 25, at which point you receive your portion outright. 25, I said, not 18. Your great-grandmother felt that 18 was too young to manage that kind of money, Robert explained. But there are provisions for distributions before then. College tuition comes directly from the trust. Medical expenses. Housing costs if you need them. The trustee has discretion to approve appropriate expenses for your benefit, but the bulk of the money stays protected until you are 25. He pulled out another document. This is the trust agreement. And this, he pulled out a third document, is a letter your great-grandmother wrote to you, to be given to you when you turned 18. He handed me an envelope. It was cream-colored, expensive paper, with my name written on it in shaky handwriting. Aaron Phillips, in blue ink. You can read it now if you like, Robert said, or take it with you, but I think it will help you understand her thinking. I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter handwritten, 2 pages long. My dearest Aaron, if you are reading this, I am gone. I hope I got to see you grow into the fine young man I always knew you would become. If I did not get that chance, please know that I thought about you often and loved you completely. By now, Robert has told you about the money I left. I want you to understand why I did things the way I did, why I left everything to you and your siblings instead of to your father. I love your father. He is my grandson, and I raised him after your grandfather died. But I also know his weaknesses. I know he struggles with money, with wanting things he cannot afford, with making impulsive decisions. I watched him struggle his whole life, and I blame myself sometimes for not teaching him better. I do not want my hard-earned savings to be spent on things that do not matter. I do not want it to disappear into bad investments or expensive toys or attempts to keep up with people who have more. I want it to be used for what matters, for education, for opportunities, for security, for you and Ethan and Lily to have chances I never had. I worked hard my entire life. Aaron, I worked as a seamstress for 40 years. I saved every penny I could. I lived in a small apartment and drove an old car and never took vacations because I wanted to build something that would last, something that would help my family long after I was gone. Your father may be angry that I did not leave him the money. He may try to convince you that I was being unfair or unkind. But the kindest thing I could do for him was to make sure he did not have access to money he would waste. And the kindest thing I could do for you was to make sure you and your siblings would have what you need to build good lives. Use this money wisely, Aaron. Get an education. Follow your dreams. Take care of your brother and sister. And remember that you are loved always by your great-grandmother who believed in you even before you knew who you would become. With all my love, Great-Grandma Margaret. I read the letter 3 times. By the 3rd time, I was crying. I had not known her well, but she had known me. She had thought about me. She had planned for my future. She had protected me from my own parents because she understood something about them that I was only now beginning to see. "Are you okay?" Robert asked gently. "Yeah," I said, wiping my eyes. "This is just a lot." "I understand," he said. "Take your time." I pulled myself together. "Okay, so the money is in trust. My parents cannot touch it. So why are they asking me to sign something?" Robert's expression darkened. "That is what concerns me. 6 months ago, right after your great-grandmother died, I met with your parents and informed them of the will. I showed them the trust documents. I explained that they have no access to the money. I thought that was clear. But I prompted. But yesterday, I received a call from another law firm, a firm that your parents apparently hired. This firm informed me that they would be submitting documents to probate court on your behalf, claiming that the trust should be dissolved and the assets distributed to your parents as the natural guardians of minor children. "Can they do that?" I asked. "Not legally, no," Robert said. "The will and trust are extremely well crafted. They will not hold up in court. But the fact that they are trying tells me they have not accepted that they cannot access this money. And the fact that they told you the estate is only $50,000 tells me they are lying to you about the true value." "What do I do?" I asked. "First, do not sign anything your parents give you," Robert said. "Nothing, no matter what they tell you it is for. If they pressure you, say you want to read it carefully first. Say you want to show it to a lawyer. Say anything except yes." "They said we have a meeting with a lawyer on my birthday," I said. "With their lawyer," Robert corrected. "Not with me. Not with the lawyer who actually handled your great-grandmother's estate. With someone they hired to try to circumvent her wishes." "So what do I do?" I asked again. "You come to that meeting," Robert said, "and I will come too, uninvited, and we will make it very clear to your parents and their lawyer that your great-grandmother's will is going to be executed exactly as written, that you know what you are inheriting, that any attempt to steal from you will be met with legal action. They are going to be really angry," I said. "Probably," Robert agreed. "But Aaron, this is your money. Your great-grandmother worked her entire life to leave you this. Your parents do not have a right to it. Not morally and not legally. You have every right to protect what is yours." I nodded slowly. "Okay, what do I need to do?" We spent the next hour going over everything. The trust documents, the estate inventory, the provisions for distributions. Robert explained that I could start using trust funds for college immediately, that the trustee would pay tuition directly to any accredited school I got into. He explained that Ethan and Lily would have the same benefits when they were old enough. He explained that this was a gift, a huge gift, and I should treat it with respect but also enjoy it. "Your great-grandmother wanted you to have opportunities," Robert said. "Do not feel guilty about that. She worked hard so you would not have to struggle the way she did. Honor that by using the money well." When I left his office, I had copies of all the trust documents in a folder. I had Robert's cell phone number, and I had a plan for my 18th birthday that was very different from what my parents expected. The next 2 days were strange. I went through the motions of normal life. School, homework, dinner with the family, But the whole time I was thinking about what I knew, about the lies my parents had told, about the money they were trying to steal, about how I was going to confront them. I did not tell Ethan or Lily. They were too young to understand, and I did not want to burden them with this. But I watched my siblings with new eyes. Ethan, who wanted to go to art school, but Dad kept saying it was impractical, and we could not afford it. Lily, who was brilliant at math, and talked about wanting to go to MIT someday. Both of them had money set aside for their futures. Money that would let them follow their dreams. And our parents were trying to take that from them. On the morning of my 18th birthday, my mom made my favorite breakfast. Pancakes with strawberries and whipped cream. She was trying too hard to be cheerful. Dad kept making jokes about me being an old man now, legally an adult. Ethan gave me a video game he had saved up for. Lily made me a card with stick figures that was supposed to be our family. So the meeting is at 2 this afternoon, Dad said over breakfast. At the lawyer's office in Cupertino. Should not take long. Sign a few papers, make everything official, and then we can go do something fun. Maybe Dave and Buster's? Your choice. Sounds good, I said. I smiled. I ate my pancakes. I acted normal. And the whole time I was preparing for what was about to happen. At 1:45, we all got in the car. The whole family. Mom and Dad in front, me, Ethan, and Lily in back. Dad drove to an office building in Cupertino and parked. We took the elevator up to the 3rd floor. The law office was called Martinez and Chong. The waiting room was nice, but not as nice as Robert's. We checked in with the receptionist and sat down. Mom kept looking at her phone. Dad kept tapping his foot. Ethan was playing a game on his phone. Lily was reading a book. At exactly 2, a young woman came out to greet us. The Phillips family, Mr. Martinez, is ready for you. Please follow me. We were led into a conference room. There was a large table with documents already laid out at one end. A man in his 40s, with graying hair, stood up when we entered. Hello, I am David Martinez. You must be Aaron. Happy birthday. Thank you, I said. Please, everyone sit down, Martinez said. This should not take long. We just have a few documents that need Aaron's signature now that he is 18 and legally able to sign. We all sat down. Martinez stayed standing, which was a power move. He picked up the first document. This first form is simply confirming that you understand the terms of your great-grandmother's estate, that assets were left in trust for you and your siblings, that your parents are serving as trustees to manage those assets until you reach age 25. Just a formality, really. He slid the paper toward me. I looked down at it. It was dense with legal language, but I could make out enough to know it was not what he said it was. It was not confirming anything. It was waiving my rights to the trust. It was agreeing to let my parents have full control with no oversight. It was essentially signing away my inheritance. Can I read this first? I asked. Before I sign. Of course, Martinez said smoothly. But it is fairly standard language. Your parents have already reviewed it with me. I would still like to read it, I said. I pulled out my phone. Actually, I would like to take a picture of it and send it to my lawyer. The room went very quiet. Dad stared at me. Your lawyer, he repeated. What lawyer? Robert Chen, I said. The lawyer who actually handled Great-Grandma Margaret's estate. The one who has been explaining to me what I am actually inheriting. Dad's face went red. You contacted the lawyer? Without telling us. He contacted me, I said, 3 days ago, and he told me some very interesting things, like how much money Great-Grandma actually left, which was a lot more than the $50,000 you told me. Aaron, Mom said, her voice tight, let us talk about this at home. No, I said, let us talk about it right now. You lied to me. You told me the estate was $50,000 when it is actually over $1 million. You brought me here to sign documents that would let you steal my inheritance. Great-grandma left that money to me and Ethan and Lily, not to you. She specifically cut you out of her will, and you have been planning to steal from your own children. We are not stealing anything, Dad said, his voice getting loud. We are your parents. We are managing the money responsibly. You are 18. You do not know anything about handling this kind of money. We are protecting it for you. By lying about how much there is, I shot back. By trying to trick me into signing away my rights. That is not protection. That is theft. The door to the conference room opened. Robert Chin walked in, carrying his briefcase. I apologize for being late, he said calmly. The traffic was terrible. Hello, Aaron. Mr. and Mrs. Phillips. Mr. Martinez. Martinez looked like he had swallowed something sour. Mr. Chun. I was not aware you would be joining us. Aaron is my client, Robert said. As the attorney who drafted and executed Margaret Phillips's estate plan, I have a responsibility to ensure her wishes are carried out, and those wishes were very clear. The estate goes to her great-grandchildren, held in an irrevocable trust with an independent trustee. Mr. and Mrs. Phillips have no access to the funds and no authority over the trust. That is not what we are proposing, Martinez said. Is that not? Robert pulled out a document from his briefcase. Because I have a copy of the document you were about to have Aaron sign. A document that would waive his rights to independent administration of the trust. A document that would give his parents full control. A document that would essentially void his great-grandmother's will. He looked at my parents. Margaret Phillips knew what she was doing. She came to me 8 years ago, specifically, because she did not trust you with money. She told me stories about debt, about poor decisions, about living beyond your means. She wanted to make sure her great-grandchildren would benefit from her hard work, not see it disappear into your financial mismanagement. That is not fair, my mother said. She was crying now. She was my grandmother. She loved us. She would not have cut us out if she did not have dementia, or if someone had not influenced her. Your grandmother was completely lucid when she wrote her will, Robert said. She had a capacity assessment done by an independent doctor specifically to prevent any future challenges. She was of sound mind. She knew exactly what she was doing, and what she was doing was protecting her great-grandchildren from you. Dad stood up abruptly, his chair screeching against the floor. This is ridiculous. We are Aaron's parents. We have his best interests at heart. We know what is best for him. You are just trying to drive a wedge between us and our son so you can collect your fees from the trust. I am paid a flat fee that was already paid by your grandmother, Robert said calmly. I have no financial interest in how the trust is administered going forward. I am here solely to ensure your great-grandmother's wishes are honored, and to make sure Aaron understands he does not have to sign anything. He turned to me. Aaron, you do not have to sign these documents. You do not have to give your parents access to your trust. Your great-grandmother set things up to protect you. That protection is there whether your parents like it or not. I looked at my parents, at my dad's red face, at my mom's tears, at the way they were looking at me like I was betraying them by not handing over money that was never theirs to begin with. I am not signing anything, I said. Great-grandma left that money for me and Ethan and Lily, for our education, for our futures. That is what it is going to be used for, exactly the way she wanted. You are making a huge mistake, Dad said. His voice was shaking with rage. You are choosing money over family. You are being selfish and ungrateful. I am being grateful, I said, to great-grandma Margaret, who worked her whole life to give us opportunities. I am honoring her wishes. That is not selfish. What is selfish is you trying to take money that was never meant for you. Get out, Dad said. Get out of this meeting. If you are not going to sign, then get out. Gladly, I said. I stood up. Robert stood up too. Mr. and Mrs. Phillips, Robert said, I strongly advise you not to pursue any further legal action to contest this will or access this trust. It will not succeed, and it will only cost you money in legal fees. Margaret's estate plan is airtight. Accept that and move on. We walked out together. In the hallway, away from my family, I started shaking. The adrenaline was leaving my system, and I was left with just the reality of what had happened. I had just accused my parents of trying to steal from me. I had just refused to do what they wanted. I had just chosen money over family, at least in their eyes. You did the right thing, Robert said. I know it does not feel good right now, but you protected yourself and your siblings. That took courage. What happens now? I asked. Now we go back to my office, and we make sure everything is properly set up, Robert said. I will help you start the process of accessing trust funds for college, and I will file formal notice with the court that any attempt by your parents to contest the will be vigorously opposed. They are going to hate me, I said. Maybe, Robert said. Or maybe once the anger fades, they will realize that their anger should be at themselves for putting you in this position, for lying to you, for trying to steal from you. That is on them, Aaron, not on you. The ride back to Robert's office was quiet. I texted Ethan from the car. I am not coming home right now. I will explain everything later. Tell Mom and Dad I am fine, but I need some space. Ethan texted back immediately. What happened? Dad looks really mad. I will explain when I see you. I texted back. Just trust me. Everything is going to be okay. But I was not sure I believed that, because everything was not okay. My relationship with my parents was shattered. My family was broken. And even though I had done the right thing, even though I had protected myself and my siblings, it did not feel like a victory. It felt like loss. At Robert's office, we spent 2 hours going over everything I would need to do. Apply to colleges, send financial aid applications, have the trust pay tuition directly, set up a small monthly allowance for living expenses, plan for the future. Where are you staying tonight? Robert asked as we were wrapping up. I do not know, I admitted. I assume I cannot go home. You can go home, Robert said. You are legally an adult. They cannot kick you out without proper notice. But if you do not feel safe or comfortable there, you should stay somewhere else. I called my best friend Marcus, explained the situation in broad strokes. He said I could stay with him as long as I needed. His parents knew me well and would not mind. I went home to pack a bag. My parents were not there. Ethan and Lily were, though. Lily was in her room. Ethan was in the living room waiting for me. What is going on? Ethan demanded as soon as I walked in. Mom and Dad came home furious. Dad said you turned against the family. Mom is in her bedroom crying. I sat down next to him. Ethan, I need to tell you something. And it is going to sound crazy, but I need you to listen. I told him everything. About the email from Robert. About great-grandma Margaret's will. About the $1 million, about the trust set up for the three of us, about how our parents had lied and tried to trick me into signing it away. Ethan listened with his eyes getting wider and wider. $1 million, he said when I finished. Over $1 million, I said, split between the three of us, for college, for our futures. Great-grandma wanted us to have opportunities, and Mom and Dad tried to take it. Ethan said, yes. I said simply, that is messed up. Ethan said, like, really messed up. I know, I said. So what happens now? He asked. Now I am going to stay with Marcus for a while. I said, let things cool down. But the money is protected. When you turn 18, you will get access to your portion. Same with Lily. The trust will pay for whatever college you want to go to. You can go to art school, Ethan. You do not have to worry about whether we can afford it. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. Really? Really? I said. Great-grandma made sure of it. We talked for another hour. I answered his questions. I showed him some of the documents Robert had given me. I explained how the trust worked. And I watched my little brother start to realize that his future had just opened up in ways he had never imagined. When Lily came downstairs, I had to explain it all again. She was 12 and did not fully understand, but she understood that great-grandma had left money for us, that it was for college, that Mom and Dad could not take it. She understood enough. Mom came downstairs while I was packing my bag. Her eyes were red from crying. "You are leaving?" she asked. "For a while," I said. "I think we all need some space." "Aaron, please," she said. "You have to understand. We were not trying to steal from you. We thought we could manage the money better. We thought we could invest it and make it grow and everyone would benefit. By lying to me about how much there was," I asked, "by trying to trick me into signing away my rights. That is not management, Mom. That is theft." "We are your parents," she said. "We raised you. We fed you and clothed you and gave you everything. And this is how you repay us. By choosing money over family." "Great-grandma Margaret was family too," I said. "And she worked her whole life to leave us this. She trusted me to use it wisely. She trusted me to make sure Ethan and Lily would benefit too. I am honoring her wishes. That is what family does." "Your father is furious," Mom said. "He says if you walk out that door, you are not welcome back." "Then I guess I am not welcome back," I said. I picked up my bag. "I love you, Mom, but you and Dad put me in an impossible position. You lied to me. You tried to steal from me. And now you are mad that I protected myself. That is not fair." I walked out. Ethan and Lily followed me to the door. "I will text you," I told them, "every day. And when you guys need anything, you let me know. The trust is for all three of us. We are in this together." I stayed at Marcus's house for 3 weeks. His parents were amazing. They gave me space, but also support. They let me process everything that had happened. And they helped me figure out next steps. I applied to colleges. Good colleges. Colleges I never would have considered before, because I thought we could not afford them. Stanford, Berkeley, UCLA. Schools that matched my grades and test scores and ambitions. Schools that great-grandma Margaret would have been proud to see me attend. I got accepted to Berkeley early admission. Full ride essentially, with the trust covering what financial aid did not. I would start in the fall. I would study computer science like I had always wanted. I would have opportunities that my parents had told me were impossible. My parents did not contact me for weeks. Then, one day in January, I got a text from my mom. "Can we talk?" We met at a coffee shop. Neutral ground. Mom came alone. She looked tired, older than I remembered. "Your father is still angry," she said after we sat down. "He feels betrayed. He does not want to talk to you yet." "Okay," I said. "But I miss you," she said. "You are my son, and I hate that money has come between us." "It is not the money that came between us," I said. "It is the lying. It is you trying to steal from your own children. That is what came between us." "We were not trying to steal," she said. "We were trying to provide. We were trying to make sure you kids would be taken care of." "Then why lie about how much there was?" I asked. "Why tell me it was 50,000 when it was over 1 million? Why try to trick me into signing documents I did not understand? If you were really trying to provide, you would have been honest from the beginning." She did not have an answer to that. She just cried. "Your father and I have been struggling for years. Financially, we have debt, credit cards, medical bills from when Lily was sick. We thought if we could just access some of that money, we could get back on track. We could breathe again." "That is not my money to bail you out with," I said. "That is money great-grandma left specifically for me and Ethan and Lily, for our education, not for your debt." "I know," she said quietly. "I know that now. I wish your grandmother had trusted us. I wish she had believed we could handle it." "Maybe she did not trust you, because you gave her reasons not to," I said. "Maybe she saw the debt and the poor decisions and realized that if she left you the money it would disappear, and she loved us enough to make sure that did not happen." We talked for another hour. It was not a happy conversation. There was no resolution, no dramatic reconciliation. Just two people trying to navigate a relationship that had been fundamentally damaged by lies and broken trust. But it was a start, a tentative, fragile start. I saw my siblings regularly. I took them out to dinner once a week. I helped Ethan with his art school applications. I helped Lily with her math homework. I made sure they knew that the trust was there for them, that they had futures full of possibilities. And slowly, painfully, my family started to find a new normal. It was not the same as before. It never would be, but it was something. I graduated high school in June. My parents came to the ceremony, but we did not sit together. We were polite, distant, but present. That counted for something. At the graduation party my friends threw for me, Marcus pulled me aside. "How are you doing? With everything?" "Okay," I said. "It is weird. It is really weird. But I think I made the right choice." "You definitely made the right choice," Marcus said. "Your great-grandmother was a smart woman. She protected you, and you protected your siblings. That took guts." "I just did what I had to do," I said. "That is what being an adult is," Marcus said. "Doing what you have to do even when it is hard." I started Berkeley in the fall. I moved into the dorms. I started my classes. I made new friends and joined clubs and lived the college life that great-grandma Margaret had worked so hard to give me. And every time I sat in a lecture hall, or studied in the library, or walked across the beautiful campus, I thought about her, about the 93-year-old woman I had barely known, but who had loved me enough to plan for my future, who had worked as a seamstress for 40 years so her great-grandchildren could have opportunities she never did. I got a job through work-study in the computer science department. I did not need the money. The trust gave me a monthly allowance for living expenses. But I wanted to work, wanted to feel like I was earning my way. Great-grandma Margaret would have approved of that. She had worked her whole life. She did not believe in getting something for nothing. And neither did I. Ethan started talking seriously about art school, about Rhode Island School of Design or California Institute of the Arts, schools that cost $60,000 a year, schools that our parents had told him were impossible. But now, with the trust, they were not impossible. They were achievable. I helped him with applications, with portfolio preparation, with essays, and I saw him light up in a way I had never seen before. Saw him start to believe that his dreams could be real. Lily was only 12, but she was already thinking about college, about MIT or Caltech or Stanford, about studying mathematics or engineering, about a future that was not limited by money or by what our parents said was practical. The trust was giving all three of us something more valuable than money. It was giving us freedom, freedom to choose our paths, freedom to follow our passions, freedom to become who we wanted to be instead of who financial limitations forced us to be. That was great-grandma Margaret's real gift, not the money itself, but what the money made possible. My relationship with my parents remained complicated. We talked occasionally, texted sometimes, but the easy trust that had existed before was gone. They had lied to me. They had tried to steal from me. And even though I had forgiven them, in a way, I could never quite forget. My father especially never quite got over it. He felt entitled to that money, felt that as Margaret's grandson, it should have been his. He could not understand why she had skipped him and left everything to us kids. But I understood. Great-Grandma Margaret had seen something in my father that made her worry. Some pattern of poor decisions and financial irresponsibility that she did not want to enable. And she had been right to worry, because when he had the chance, he tried to take money that was not his, tried to lie and manipulate his own children to get access to funds he had no right to. She had known. Somehow she had known. And she had protected us. I am 19 now. I have 1 year of college done and 3 more to go. I have a career path I am excited about. I have siblings who are thriving because they know they have opportunities. I have a future that is bright and open and full of possibilities. And I have a great-grandmother I barely knew, but who loved me enough to give me all of that. Sometimes I think about that day in the lawyer's office, about the moment when I said no, about standing up to my parents and refusing to let them take what my great-grandmother had left for me, about how scared I was, how uncertain, but I did it. I protected myself. I protected Ethan and Lily. I honored Great-Grandma Margaret's wishes. And even though it cost me the easy relationship I had with my parents, even though it complicated my family forever, it was the right thing to do. My name is Aaron Phillips. I am 19 years old. I became an adult the day I received an email from a lawyer I had never met. The day I learned that the people who raised me had been lying to me. The day I had to choose between family loyalty and doing what was right. I chose right, and I would choose it again, every time. Thank you for listening to my story of growing up faster than I ever wanted to. I have left 2 more stories on your screen, both from young men who learned that sometimes becoming an adult does not happen at 18. It happens the moment your family needs you to be strong. Click on whichever one speaks to you. And if you want to join our community of people who understand what it is like to be forced to grow up overnight, that notification bell is waiting. Until tomorrow, remember, age is just a number, but courage defines who you really are.